السلام عليكم. بالنسبة لشرح القاعدة بيونت 14 رح تكون عندنا simple past tense the negative form. رح تكون هي عبارة عن تكملة لزمن الماضي البسيط، لكن هالمرة رح تكون بصيغة النفي. At first we are going to remember the use of the simple past tense. Why do we use the simple past tense? We use it to talk about an actions that happened and finished in the past. نستخدم صيغة الماضي البسيط للتحدث عن أشياء أو أحداث حدثت وانتهت في الماضي. What is the form of the simple past tense? What is the form? ما هي صيغة simple past tense؟ من إيش بتكون؟ هو عبارة عن subject الفاعل، simple past verb فعل تصريف ثاني، وحكينا إنه راح يكون عن طريق إضافة ed للverb، لأنه إحنا ما تعلمنا غير بس regular verbs الأفعال المنتظمة، plus the complement اللي هي تكملة الجملة. What are the key words of the simple past tense? شو هن الكلمات المفتاحية بالنسبة لزمن الماضي البسيط؟ Yesterday, last week, last year, last month, in the past, etc. Here we have an example. The first one, we visited the museum last week. Here we have the subject. We is the subject. Visited, simple past verb. And the museum last week is the complement, تكملة الجملة. Example number 2. I watched television yesterday. أنا شاهدت التلفاز الأمس، مبارح، يعني خلص وانتهى. مبارح أنا شاهدت التلفاز. I watched television yesterday. I is the subject. watch هي عبارة عن simple past verb اللي هو الفعل تصريف ثاني. Television yesterday is the complement. Now, what if I want to negate these sentences? أنا بدي أنفي هاي الجمل، رح أحولها من affirmative ل negative. شو رح أعمل؟ حكينا دايما النيجاتيف رح بيكون باستخدام not، بس مش رح تكون لحالها. We are going to use didn't. Right? بالنسبة للsimple past we are going to use didn't. What is the place of the word didn't in the sentence? كيف رح أنفي الجملة؟ وين رح يكون موقعها didn't? At first we visited the museum last week. This is affirmative sentence. We are going to negate it. How? We didn't. بالنسبة للverb visited we are going to change it to verb 1 base 4. رح نرجعه للزمن base form. We didn't visit the museum last week. We didn't visit the museum last week. شو عملنا؟ زدنا didn't على الجملة، بالمقابل رجعنا simple past verb ل base form. What about number 2? I watched television yesterday. How do we negate it? I didn't. verb 2 رح يرجع للبيس form. I didn't watch television yesterday. Exercise number 2, page 53, activity book. Look and write. At first, look at the picture. Who is this? She is grandma. Is she young? No, she isn't. She's old. Here we have a sentence. Read it, please. Could you read it? Yes. When we were young. So that grandma is going to talk about herself when she was young. At first, look at the example. Mobile phones. Did they use the mobile phones when they were young? No, they didn't. We didn't use mobile phones. We didn't use mobile phones. Number 2, radio. Radio. Did they listen to the radio when they were young? Yes, they did, because we have the tick sign. So that we listened to the radio. Number 3, DVDs. Did they watch DVDs when they were young? No, they didn't. So that we didn't watch DVDs. Number 4, CDs. CDs. Did they have CDs when they were young? Or did they listen to CDs when they were young? No, they didn't. So that we can say we didn't listen to CDs, or we didn't have CDs. Thank you. Exercise number 3, page 54, activity book. Read and circle true or false. Yes, Rabbi, here we have a paragraph and here we have 5 sentences. We are going to circle with a true or false depending on the paragraph. At first, let me read the paragraph for you. In the past, some people didn't live in villages. They lived in the desert. They didn't live in houses in the desert. They lived in tents. They didn't have cars. They used camels to travel. In the past, people didn't have mobile phones or computers. They didn't go to sports centers, and they didn't watch television or listen to the radio. They didn't go on holiday, and their children didn't have bicycles and lots of toys. The girls played with dolls, they watched the stars, and they talked. At first, what's the meaning of the word village? Village means qura. What's the meaning of the word desert? What's the meaning of desert? Sahara. What's the meaning of the word camels? Camels هن الجمال. The plural of camel, جمل. What's the meaning of travel? Travel هي السفر أو التنقل. What's the meaning of the word bicycles? اللي هن الدراجات. television already أخذناها، التلفاز، راديو، المذياع أو الراديو. Now let's answer the questions. In the desert, people didn't live in houses. Is that true? Did they live in houses? No, they didn't. Here we have the answer. People didn't live in villages, and they lived in the desert. They didn't live in houses. Here we have the answer. Number 2, the children listened to the radio. Did the children listen to the radio in the past? No, they didn't. They didn't watch television or listen to the radio, so that it's false. Number 3, they watched television. They watched television. Did they watch television in the past? No, they didn't. Here we have the answer. They didn't watch television or listen to the radio, so that the answer is false. Number 4, the girls played with dolls. The girls played with dolls. Did the girls play with dolls in the past? Yes, they did. Here we have the answer. The girls played with dolls, so that the answer is true. Number 5, the last one. They didn't go on holiday. They didn't go on holiday. What's the meaning of the word holiday? عطلة. They didn't go on holiday. What is the answer? The answer is true, because here we have the answer. They didn't go on holiday, so that it's true. Thank you. Exercise number 4, page 54, activity book. At first, we are going to read the introducing sentence. I was ill yesterday. I didn't enjoy my day in bed. أنا كنت مريض الأمس. I didn't enjoy my day in bed. لم أستمتع في يومي في السرير. So that I didn't go to school. أنا لم أذهب للمدرسة. I didn't go to school. What about number 2? I didn't play football. وأيضا لم ألعب الكرة. I didn't play football because I was ill yesterday. And what? I didn't ride my bicycle. What about this? I didn't play in the park. That's it. Thank you. Exercise number 5, page 55, activity book. Look and write. Look and write. At first, how many pictures do we have in our exercise? There are 4 pictures. Could you tell me what can you see in picture number 1? This is a tent. Here we have girls and a boy. What do we call these things? These are stars. What do we call this animal? It's a camel. It's a camels. These are camels. And this is a photo. Okay. Here we have 4 verbs. We are going to use them to make our sentences. At first, I'm going to read them. Look, stay, travel, life. Look means ينظر. Stay يبقى أو يقيم. Travel يتنقل يسافر. Laugh means يضحك. This is an example. We stayed in a tent in Wadi Rum. We stayed in a tent in Wadi Rum. You have to pay attention that we are going to use the simple past tense. Number 2. We are going to say they or we looked at the stars. Picture number 3. What did they do? We traveled on camels. And the last one, we laughed. We laughed at the photos. Exercise number 4, page 58, pupil's book. Read and say right or wrong. Read and say right or wrong. Yes, Rabbi, here we have a paragraph with the title Karim's Diary, مفكرة كريم. And here we have 5 sentences. We are going to determine if these sentences are right or wrong, depending on the paragraph after reading and understanding it. Karim's Diary. Last year, we didn't travel to the beach for our holiday. We didn't stay in a hotel. We stayed in a tent in Wadi Rum for a week. We liked the desert. It was dark at night. We looked at the stars in the black night sky. I think that there were 100 stars. We traveled on camels. It was fun. We laughed when we looked at the photos. We enjoyed our holiday very much. At the first, what's the meaning of the word last year? Last year اللي هي العام الماضي. What's the meaning of the word holiday? Holiday العطلة أو الإجازة. I think. What's the meaning of I think? أنا أعتقد أفكر. Laughed. G وال H we pronounce as F. Laughed. What's the meaning of the word laughed? Laughed. ضحك. Enjoyed. Enjoyed. استمتع. Enjoy. يستمتع. Enjoyed. استمتع. What's the meaning of the word tent? Tent means خيمة. What's the meaning of the word stay? Stay يقيم أو يبقى. A hotel فندق hotel. Desert صحراء. Dark ظلام. Night الليل. Now let me ask you some questions about the paragraph. The first question, where did they travel last year? Where did they travel last year? They traveled to Wadi Rum. They traveled to Wadi Rum. Question number 2. Did they stay in a hotel? Did they stay in a hotel? No, they didn't. They didn't stay in a hotel. Where did they stay? Where did they stay? They stayed in a tent. They stayed in a tent. Did they like the desert? Did they like the desert? Yes, they did. They liked the desert. How did they travel? How did they travel? Did they travel by cars? No, they didn't. They traveled on camels. They traveled on camels. Did they enjoy their holiday? Did they enjoy their holiday? Yes, they did. They enjoyed their holiday very much. Now we are going to read these sentences, then we are going to answer if they right or wrong. صح أو خطأ. Number 1. Kareem and Samira traveled to the beach for their holiday. Is it right or wrong? It's wrong. Did they travel to the beach? No, they didn't. So that number 1, wrong. They didn't travel to the beach. They traveled to the desert. Number 2, they stayed in a tent. They stayed in a tent. Did they stay in a tent? Yes, they did. Right. صحيحة. Number 3. They stayed in a tent for 2 weeks. They stayed in a tent for 2 weeks. Did they stay in a tent for 2 weeks? No, that's wrong. They stayed in a tent for a week. أسبوع واحد. So that's wrong. They stayed in a tent for a week. Number 4. Kareem and Samira looked at the stars at night. Kareem and Samira looked at the stars at night. Did they look at the stars at night? Yes, they did. Here we have the answer. We looked at the stars in the black night sky, so that it's right. And the last one, they traveled by car in the desert. Did they travel by car in the desert? No, they didn't. They traveled on camels. So that it's wrong. They traveled on camels in the desert. Assalamu alaikum. Exercise number 2, page 57. Exercise number 2, page 57, pupils book. Look and say. Look and say. At first, let me ask you, what can you see? What can you see in the pictures? We have a television, a radio. Here we have a DVD. It's a computer or a laptop. It's a village. It's a city. Here we have 2 sides. In this sides, here we have cross sign. إشارة الإكس refers to the things that grandma and grandpa didn't do when they were young. يعني الأشياء اللي ما عملوها الجد والجدة عندما كانوا في شبابهم. The second side refers to the things that grandma and grandpa did when they were young. الأشياء اللي عملوها الجد والجدة عندما كانوا في شبابهم. Here we have an example. When grandpa and grandma were young, they didn't live in a city, they lived in a village. راح أستخدم simple past tense in the negative form and in the affirmative form. راح أستخدم بهذا التمرين صيغة الماضي البسيط بصيغة النفي والصيغة المثبتة. هاي الصيغة بالبداية راح تكون ثابتة. When grandpa and grandma were young, they didn't live in a city. راح أكمل على هذا النمط. Look at the second one. راح أحكي when grandpa and grandma were young, they didn't watch DVDs. They listened to the radio. راح أكتبها. When grandpa and grandma were young, they didn't watch DVDs. They didn't watch DVDs, full stop. They listened to the radio. What about the last one? I have to say when grandpa and grandma were young, they didn't use the computer. لم يستخدموا الكمبيوتر, but they watched television. كانوا يشاهدوا التلفاز. They watched television. I'm going to write it here. When grandpa and grandma were young, they didn't use the computer. They watched television. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Exercise number 3, page 57. Talk about you. In this exercise, we are going to continue in the same way of the previous exercise, but here we are going to talk about ourselves. Okay? Here we have a group of verbs. We are going to use them to make our sentences. You have to pay attention that we are going to use the simple past tense in making our sentences in the negative and affirmative forms. At first we have travel, play, listen, use, watch, help, tidy, carry, visit, talk, walk, wash, cook, and brush. Here we have an example. I didn't play table tennis yesterday. I played volleyball. Now we are going to make an example and you have to do your own sentence, okay? For example, I didn't listen to the radio yesterday. I watched television. This is my own example. Now let me see your own sentences. Yes, go on. Thank you. Exercise number 8, page 56, activity book. Read and answer about you. Read and answer about you. In this exercise, we have 4 sentences. You are going to answer these sentences about yourself. Sentence number 1. You listened to a CD last week. You listened to a CD last week. Did you listen to a CD last week? No, I didn't listen to a CD last week. What about the yes sentence? Number 2, you watched tennis last week. You watched tennis last week. Did you watch tennis last week? Yes, I watched tennis last week. What about number 3? Remember that you are going to write your own answer. It's about yourself, عن نفسك. You listened to the radio last week. Did you listen to the radio last week? For example, I'm going to answer with yes. Yes, I listened to the radio last week. What about number 4? You traveled to Wadi Rum last year. You traveled to Wadi Rum last year. Did you travel to Wadi Rum last year? No, I didn't travel to Wadi Rum last week. And you have to remember that the answer should be about yourself, عن نفسك. These are my own answers. Thank you. Exercise number 9, page 56, activity book. Read and match. Read and match. In this exercise, you have to match the word in the first side to the correct one from the other side that have the same meaning. Here we have an example. Number 1, father, have the same meaning with the word dad. That means الأب, أبي, father. We are going to match it with dad. Here we have mother, grandfather, grandmother. The other side, grandpa, grandma, mom, and dad. So that number 2, mother. What is the word that have the same meaning with mother, الأم? We are going to match it with C, mom. Grandfather, grandfather. We are going to match it with what? What is the word that have the same meaning with grandfather? Grandpa. Grandmother, grandmother. We are going to match it with grandma, which have the same meaning. Grandma, الجدة. الأب، الأم، الجدة. This is what we call it in English the synonyms. المترادفات. Thank you.